everyone. Welcome, welcome. I have a bunch of awesome people here with me. I'm gonna fling on over to ELH so they can do the amazing intros of everything going on today.
All right. So, hello everyone. My name is ELH, your illustrious game master for the evening. You can find me over at ELHMK1. Normally, we would be co-streaming this, but apparently my OBS has decided to more or less not work with me today. I hope it'll be fixed for tomorrow's stream, but that's my concern, not yours.
It's my
Tonight,
concern too. I'm concerned
this is
about
true.
it. I like
This
watching.
is true. We do want to see the continuation of now Messina. They have switched from Amaterasu to Messina. Same characters, but
maybe I'll get to be able to pronounce that one. Or Wolfrea.
Wolfray, you'll get it.
Ray. Listen, what episode will it be before I get it? Who knows?
We'll just make a channel point redeem or bet for it. Anyway, tonight, as I say, we're playing Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition. It is a Star Trek Adventures tabletop role-playing game, and the rules are by Modiphius Entertainment. Modiphius known for systems such as, obviously, Star Trek, but also Fallout, Conan, Achtung Cthulhu, and a bunch of other systems as well. But what matters is I will be teaching as we play, so you don't need any foreknowledge of what we're doing tonight. As long as you're just here for a good time and a good story, you're going to enjoy tonight's little session. But normally what I would do if this were my channel is I would have everyone introduce themselves. But since this is Whiskey's channel, I'm going to let them run the show and figure out when we actually cut to the intro.
Fair enough. I guess I'll introduce myself and the character that I'm playing as. I'm playing as the ship. For those of you here who are normals to my channel, that just makes sense because I'm the battleship lady. Good old gremlin boat. Oh, Founder just derped out for a second. I think it's fine. Anyway, yeah, I'm playing as our ship. It's a lot of fun. We got 3 different AI gremlins on the top left of the screen. That's the lovely lady that I am mainly going to be playing as, Arya. And how about the rest of y'all? Go ahead and say what characters you're playing.
Well, to avoid the dead air, because I thought someone would have spoke up already, but no, I apologize, everyone. Hi, it's me, Dracus, your wonderful, wonderful mod of Whiskey. Those of you in chat who have been here long enough know who I am and what I do. It is a pleasure once again to be reconvening with 2 wonderful, wonderful friends of mine, ELH. It is great to see you back in the saddle again. And I cannot wait to see the differences between 1E and 2E this time. For those of you who have never met me before, I'm Dracus. I am Whiskey's personal, well, I won't say servant, I'll be nice. Personal, play toy and firer of all things. I will be playing Lieutenant Commander Dr. Tisani, the Vulcan Chief Medical Officer on our wonderful, wonderful U.S.S. Trinity.
And I am James, the Chief Engineer of the Trinity. I'm a friend of Whiskey's for a long time. I think I've been on the channel a couple of times here and there. But yeah, Lieutenant Commander, I'm a hologram, and I'm looking forward to playing and learning the system.
Yes. Anybody have any final comments before we roll the intro?
I just want to do a quick audio check. Chat, how are we doing on audio? Is everybody clear, coming through? No jet noise, no random cats playing with jingling balls in the background like mine is right now. Yes, I'm talking about you. Sorry, I have a cat that is just, she's going nuts today. I don't know what's going on with her. But yes, Chat, are we good on audio before we begin?
Yeah, chat says audio's good.
All right, well,
awesome.
that sounds like we're going to run Techno Nerds intros, so take it away, Whiskey.
Now let's see if this button works. Boom! back, everyone. Once again, thank you to Techno Nerd for that amazing intro.
Yeah, it was if you're not aware of what I do on my channel, it's pretty much always Star Trek Adventures or some minor variety streaming, but Techno is very gracious and tends to do those amazing opening videos for all my Star Trek Adventures series. So if you are interested in Techno's work, I'll give Whiskey a link to shout out at some point.
Mhm.
But
It's also my pinned tweet on Twitter.
Oh, well, there you go. That'll work. But unless there's any other notes of concern, are we ready to begin?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I don't have any concerns. I should be good. Let's go.
Sure, you're not scared of the homicidal AI running your ship, black hole torpedoes, nothing like that.
I mean, I'm not afraid of them.
That's all I need to hear. All right, let's do it.
Why would I be afraid of myself?
Oh Lord. All right, so normally when I do these Star Trek Adventure streams is I have the captain doing opening log. The captain is an NPC this time, which will be very interesting. So we begin with the U.S.S. Trinity, a Hestia class, or the upgraded version of the Prometheus class as seen in Star Trek Voyager, ship in a bottle, if I remember correctly. But as we see this, what is basically a battleship, capable of splitting into multiple parts, as we see it flying through warp space, we hear the captain narration. And the captain is Captain Thompson. And Thompson says, Captain's log supplemental, we are en route to the X135 system, a previously uncharted star system in the outer reaches of explored space in the Alpha Quadrant. We've detected a massive release of Thalaron radiation. Of course, the very same radiation that was used in dispatching the Romulan Empire, the Romulan Senate. Just not something we want to see, because if this is another Romulan weapon and it is at the levels we are detecting, this could be very bad, not only for the United Federation of Planets, but for any organic life in this area. To that end, we have been dispatched to this system, and we've more or less been rushed out of Stardock. The Trinity was the closest ship capable of getting here at short notice. We haven't really tested the Trinity. She's a unique ship. In fact, I have a feeling that getting to know Trinity will be a unique experience, given that she is literally not just an intelligence, but 3 intelligences in one. I shudder to think what that's going to be like in my report, but I will remain optimistic and log. We now cut to the interior of the Trinity's bridge, where we have a chair center stage. We have 2 consoles to the left and the right in the front. And then behind them, in kind of a circular fashion, are other consoles, systems displays, and everything else. Now, all of you are present on the bridge in one way or another. I leave it to your discretion what you're doing on the bridge, but what matters is that you are on the bridge so that you can jump into the scene however you like. But before we begin that, I would like to go around and have everybody give me just a very brief visual description of your character. And to sort of give an example, I'll tell you a little bit about Captain Thompson. So Captain Thompson is about 5'8". He's a human in his late 40s. He has fully embraced the Picard look, meaning that he has no hair on the top of his head. He is proudly bald, also able to reflect phasers off his chrome dome, if you get my meaning. But he also has a very impressive beard, and this is the kind of beard that would make any dwarf instantly jealous with how immaculately kept and shaped this beard is. Now, overall, he has a resting stern face, as I will call it, but whenever he speaks, it is with not just determination and confidence, but it's also with that sort of like old man, sort of, that's okay, do your best kind of a situation. But that's Captain Thompson, and why don't we go around and just have everybody give me that visual description. And why don't we start with you, Trinity? What does your current instance look like?
Yes. So since we're currently connected, 99% of the time when we're connected, the visual that you get is the one named Arya. She has a sort of purplish hair that's about as long as she is, and as it flows down, it transitions into a dark purple and then a blue. And she's got like kind of like Ohura has that like earpiece on all the time. She sort of has a sort of holographic earpiece like that. And otherwise, she has a very not Starfleet uniform because she's the starship. She's kind of not required to follow dress codes because the ship doesn't have a dress code really itself. But yeah, so she's in a sort of dress, and it has a lot of like sparkly, shiny aesthetics to it. Sort of think I got a foil Pokemon card, kind of shiny, and that's what a lot of her dress has. And she's got purple and blue eyes.
All right. What about Tasani? What does Tasani look like?
I just need a second mentally because, ooh, shiny, and my brain went, ooh, shiny. I promise, I'm not that bad normally. But no, Dr. Tasani is, and I will keep this as monosyllabic for those of you as possible, is a tight yet slightly messy bun of dark brown, almost black hair, you'd call it, with striking blue eyes that most Vulcans very rarely get. She tends to keep her medical uniform very nice and clean, as is the state in TNG. It is a black lapel with blue monochroming patterns through her chest and arms. She is consistently looking back and forth between not only a datapad, but all the sensors and screens up on there for the wonderful captain, and giving a few readings here and there of, yes, this is what we're dealing with, this is what we're not dealing with, Captain. It's a standard protocol, so long as everything is logical in nature.
All right. And then what does James look like, our chief engineer hologram?
He is standing looking at the various displays for everything, standing at about 5'9", 5'10", fairly unkempt hair with like red highlights, kind of the older DS9 style uniform. That's the one he likes the most. And he's got like a little bit of a keychain that he kind of looks at every now and then, just kind of hanging off his side. But otherwise, he's got his data pad and just watching all the engineering readings from the remote engineering screens, making sure things are running the way that they're supposed to be, inputting some things every now and then. But otherwise, fantastic posture, just a little bit of bedhead with his long hair.
Okay. So, because I want this to be a teaching experience, I would like, James, if you could give me a roll here to determine what long-range sensors are picking up. And don't worry, Whiskey, you're going to get to assist on this, but let me explain for the people at home. So the way this system works is you start with a base dice pool of two 20-sided die, or 2d20. And the goal is to take an attribute score and a discipline score, or if you're a ship, a system and department score, and create a target number. So for example, James, since you are making this sensor scan, you will be doing a reason engineering, and you have a reason of 11 and an engineering of 5. So that means your target number is 16 or lower. And the goal is to get as many successes on your dice as possible. Whenever I say something like difficulty 1, difficulty 2, difficulty 3, etc., that's how many successes I need to see on your dice pool in order for this roll to succeed. So for this, it's just a difficulty of 0. And that means whatever successes you get are going to lead to goodies for you. So what you're going to do, James, is you're going to hit the perform task button, and it's going to ask you some questions here in Foundry. By the way, we're using Foundry VTT for all this. I actually maintain and run the instance of the rules that we're using currently. So if you see that it's looking a little bit different than your home setup, that's why, because it's my personal thing that I've tailored for my games itself. But more to the point, whenever you hit perform task, it's going to ask you things like, are you using a focus? Are you using determination value, et cetera, et cetera? And I'll walk you through it.
Okay.
So a focus is something on the character sheet that you have 6 of. And if you have something that applies to the role that is being done, in this instance, a sensor scan, you would check the using focus button here. And what that would do is it would make your critical success range much higher. And I should again qualify that low numbers are good here, where you want to see a natural 1. You don't want to see a natural 20, unless you like spice. If you like spice, you want to see 20s.
I like spice.
Yeah, spice is good. But I would say for this, there probably isn't a focus that applies here. So leave that unchecked. The next question, dedicated focus. Don't worry about that. Nobody in this game has a dedicated focus unless Tasani added one. So just leave dedicated focus off. And for the folks at home, dedicated focus just doubles your critical success range. So instead of...
No, we talked about that, and I was like, hey, can I do the dedicated focus medical? And you're like, no. We'll save that for when I think we were like 3 or 4 sessions then.
Yeah. When you upgrade your character, you can take a dedicated focus. But basically, to give a more concrete example, again, James's engineering is a 5. If they had a dedicated focus, they would crit on a 10 or lower. So it's a very powerful tool to have in your toolkit, but it very much breaks things if you're not prepared for it. But that's my problem, not anyone else's. Using determination value, don't worry about that. I'll explain that when it happens. Complication range, that's just your critical failure range, quote unquote. Leave that at 20. And number of dice in pool, leave it at the default of 2. And just go ahead and hit roll dice, and I'll explain what happens from there. All right, so you rolled an 8 and a 9. That is 2 successes because both of them were under 16. Now, we have to account for the Trinity's assist. And the Trinity is actually using a little bit of unique rules because obviously we're playing her as a character rather than just a starship.
Yes.
So, Trinity, you are going to be rolling a sensors engineering here.
Oh, I like that.
And you will be rolling 1d20 on the assist. Unless there is a talent that says otherwise, you always roll 1d20 whenever you're assisting. Doesn't matter if you're the ship, doesn't matter if you're James the hologram, doesn't matter if you're Tasani or the captain. It's only 1 die on an assist. But the good news is that Trinity always has a focus here.
Because
so Trinity,
a ship.
Yep. So Trinity always has an increased critical success range. But just go ahead and set everything to 1d20 and let's see what happens. All right, so unfortunately a 14 is higher than 13, so no additional success. That's okay. It's not a critical failure or a complication as it's known. So let me tie everything together here. 2 successes mean you now get 2 momentum because it was a difficulty of 0. That's 2 more successes than you needed to pass. Therefore, you have meta currency known as momentum. And overall, what I will tell you is you can have 6 momentum at a time, but I'll have teaching moments to explain, well, ELH, what is this meta currency you speak of? What does momentum do? I'll explain it when it happens, don't worry. But for now, James, what I can tell you is that long-range sensors are indeed picking up that the Thalaron radiation on the planet you're approaching has increased 3-fold since the initial deep space scan over 2 days ago. And it is getting to the point that you're starting to worry if the Trinity shields will be able to withstand the amount of radiation that's out there. Because as a reminder, Thalaron radiation, not that great for biological life. So Trinity will be fine, and James will be fine, but everybody else, not so much.
Thalaron Radiation seems to have spiked 3 times since last scans. I recommend approaching with more caution to set up the shields and any other precautions for the more organic components of the ship.
That sounds wise.
Just out of curiosity, does the Trinity use the gel packs like Voyager did?
They do, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Would those also be susceptible to the Thalaron radiation?
They would.
Yeah, I'll probably end up saying mauve. Yeah, I don't have evil redeems here.
No, and I don't even think I have some of my chatters over here today. So on my channel, there are evil and good redeems where the players or the viewers can mess with the players, but we're on Whiskey's channel, so you don't have ways to mess with them, which is probably a good thing because it can get really squirrely very quickly.
We're
fair.
being nice, session 1.
Yeah, you're good. But I think what's going to happen is Captain Thompson is going to look at Lieutenant Commander James, nod, look at Trinity's hologram, nod, then is going to direct their attention to the Doctor. And he's going to say to Sonny, since we are dealing with elevated levels of Thalaron radiation, do you think you can whip something up, some kind of inoculation, some kind of adjustment to the shield array that would protect us from this overwhelming force?
Letting me use one of my things already. Joy. My dear, wonderful captain. I am a doctor, not an engineer. I do not simply just whip up some kind of concoction like it is a simple science. It takes dedication, studying a craft. Now, given enough time and exposure, yes, I could take the radons and mess with them and produce a simple cure, but it will take time and effort. Though while we are thinking about it, putting on the radon shields should be sufficient enough for this case as of currently. I can run to the medical bay and start some examinations through previous methods and uses of what has already happened with this type of radiation, if that is sufficient.
Trinity, how long do we got before we're in system?
Looks like we are about 2 hours out at current velocity.
Well, Doctor, you have 2 hours.
I shall get it to you in 1 hour. Thank you.
Very good. And as we follow Tasani out of the bridge down through a turbolift to the sick bay, tell me a little bit about your approach. Are you going to be, as you say, studying past instances of this radiation? Are you going to be, I don't know, throwing together just hyronalin and other drug cocktails to make a super cure? Like, tell me a little bit about your approach here.
You know, as much as I would love to improvise, adapt, and overcome in this situation, right now, information is power. Getting all the information about the specific type of radiation will help cure it and keep it at bay for longer. It'll also not only deal with the curing of it, but it'll keep any minimalization or progress to almost a standstill. In fact, understanding it is the first step to healing what this problem will become.
Okay. In that instance, why don't you give me a reason and medicine at a difficulty of 1? So that means I need to see at least 1 success on your reason medicine here. Now, teaching moment, because you have momentum, and I will make it a note. You can buy additional dice with momentum. It's the most common use. There are other uses, which I'll explain as they become relevant. But the most common use is buying additional dice for your dice pool. Now, you have 2 momentum, which means unless you want to give me threat, which is my meta currency, you probably want to spend maybe 1 momentum for 3 dice total.
Well, at the same time, I do also have a question, because
Okay.
this kind of plays into a couple of things. I do have a value on this.
Mhm.
That understanding is the first step to healing. Understanding
So,
this type of radiation would be the first to healing it.
so what I would say on that is we don't want to use your value quite yet. Value is it informs roleplay. It also activates a third type of meta currency known as determination. But you don't want to use determination on this quite yet. As a game master who has run this kind of thing many, many years, save your determination. You won't need it. You'll need it later, kind of a thing.
Would this be considered cutting edge medicine?
It would indeed. So you would have a focus
Okay,
here.
I do have a focus. It wouldn't be considered emergency medicine either, so I don't have to worry about it. If the rest of the group is cool, I'm going to use that one momentum to give me that extra die.
Go for it.
All right.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Okay. So you have 2 successes here. All right. So that is already 1 momentum right back. But you have cautious medicine, which means technically you could reroll that 18 if you wanted to try and get even more momentum.
I was actually going to ask, since I did have cautious medicine, if I could re-roll it. I was waiting to see that roll.
It's almost like I read your character sheets and prepared this kind of thing specifically to teach.
Gasp.
Almost as if
Shock.
it's an easy character to teach this with.
Hey.
Ooh, hey, that's 3 successes.
All right, so 3 successes. It was a difficulty of 1. It gives you 2 momentum, bringing you up to 3. So, Tasani, again, the most recent and most prevalent use of Thalaron Radiation was when Shinzon of Remus literally melted the Romulan Senate. And it was the whole, I think it was a Riemann Warbird? Yeah, it was a Riemann Warbird. The Scimitar. The whole sort of bad guy of Star Trek Nemesis kind of a thing. And it is a very turbulent technology. It's since that whole Nemesis incident, it's kind of been one of those, hey, we won't use it if you don't use it kind of situations. Gentleman's agreement kind of a thing. But what I can tell you is that based on what you're looking in the data in the computers and what you are seeing on the sensor scans, this is not the same Romulan or Riemann generation method. So this is an entirely different way of creating Thalaron radiation.
Oh. Oh no, that's not good. Medical to bridge.
Bridge here, go ahead.
Well, I regret to inform you, Captain, that this is not exactly the same type of radiation that we have seen in previous iterations. My estimation is that it is an entirely new type of radiation. The generation methods do not seem to match up with standards we've seen before. And it might take slightly longer to concoct a cure-all for this radiation. I suggest, if we can, we take a step back from entering the system in full and orbit just slightly out of it.
Agreed. We don't want to be flying headlong into this thing. Trinity, slow to warp 3 and take us out on the edge of the system, the absolute edge.
Slowing to warp 3 and dropping us out at the edge.
All right. So as we kind of zoom out from sickbay and then we see the Trinity in her glory dropping out of warp into the star system, what we see is a standard sort of soul-like sun. So kind of, I forget the specific class of star, but it's like our star. It's like our sun. And there are 2 planets in system. One is kind of just like a Mercury. It's a blasted rock of heat and it's too close for life kind of a thing. The other one, though, very interesting for several reasons. The first is because, as you saw in the intro video, this planet has a massive ring around it. And I'm not talking like a Saturn ring or a Neptune ring kind of a thing. I'm talking a artificially constructed ring around the entirety of the equator. And
Fascinating.
what
So
you're
we're talking
noting,
like Halo Ring?
not quite Halo Ring. It would be like if you took Halo Ring and then put it over the planet rather than freestanding.
It's like an orbital ring platform
Oh,
for increased
you
population
kind of scared
usage.
me for like 5 seconds right there, going, "Oh no, we have a planetary ring."
Well, your question about it being a Halo ring is actually kind of apt because the source of all that Thalaron radiation is that ring. That ring is essentially nuking the planet below with so much Thalaron radiation that there is no way that any organic life is able to exist on that planet. And I don't just mean like flora and fauna. I mean, not even the smallest microbe would be able to exist on that world. And this leads to interesting fact number 2 about the planet. Even from this distance, your sensors are indicating that this world used to have oceans. This world used to have vibrant oceans, in fact. All of that ocean has been boiled away by this radiation to the point that it is a barren, scarred, and otherwise irradiated planet.
I want to try and scan this thing and figure out if the radiation is directed as if it like is primarily focusing inwards or if it's just radiating in all directions equally in strength.
Sure. Trinity, if you could give me a sensors and engineering, you of course always have a focus, and this is a difficulty of 2, so you may wish to buy additional momentum here.
Yes,
Or additional dice with momentum, I should
Yeah, I'll
say.
buy a third dice with 1 momentum.
Okay.
And we'll let the dice tell a story.
3 successes, you get that momentum right back.
Yo.
So, what I'm going to tell you is that the ring is designed such that it is basically saturating the atmosphere with the radiation, so it does cover the entire planet. But whoever made the ring wasn't really concerned with the radiation bleeding out from the planet. It is, how to say this? It is like taking a spoon and putting it underneath like a stream of water, where depending on which side of the spoon the stream hits, it either splashes back at you or it kind of makes this cool curve effect. That's kind of what's going on with the radiation here.
Captain, this ring is very clearly a weapon of some sort. And whoever designed it clearly did not care about the extra planar casualties of not on the planet. So they seem to not care about both the planet and anything surrounding the planets that they wish to deploy this on.
And I think at this, the captain actually turns to Lieutenant Commander James. James, your opinion? Doesn't it seem a little bit odd that this kind of megastructure is around a planet when starships like the Trinity could accomplish the same sort of, I hesitate to call it terraforming because it's the exact opposite, but what do you think this is? Do you believe it's a weapon?
I mean, without getting in closer, it would be hard to tell. Depending on what kind of propulsion. I mean, if it's going to take forever to get from system to system, I can't see it being a weapon. But I mean,
excellent point. Actually,
it's obviously hazardous, but it's also, while it's focusing on the planet, there's a lot of bleed off effects too, so it's not efficient. You'd think if they were making a mega structure that large, it would be a little bit more efficient in doing what it needs to do.
Interesting.
Very good points there. Trinity,
yes.
Can you detect any engines, any kind of propulsion system on this ring?
Checking for usual and unusual propulsion systems now.
All right, so this is a teaching moment. At any point during a scene, anyone, not just Trinity, can spend 1 momentum to ask me a question. And this question I have to answer honestly. It doesn't have to be the complete answer, but it does at least have to give you something in the narrative, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I should qualify that this is very much not a game master versus player mindset. This is very much a collaborative storytelling tool that allows the game master to feed hints, but not sort of dominate the story, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
asking for the clarification on this because a couple of us play other systems. Are we
Mhm.
talking like augury, good, bad, and we don't know, or is it speak with dead of here's a subtle quizzical answer of take it how you will, or is it a just yes, this is your answer?
This is more of a I will give you as much information as I can without spoiling the mystery, if that makes sense.
it's not going to be a monkey's paw kind of answer.
Oh,
Correct.
good. Those are the best kinds of answers then.
Yes. So I'll spend one momentum and ask the question: does this device ring have any forms of propulsion?
All right. So, as you check your sensor scans and you double check them, what you realize that there are no engines on this planetary ring structure. In fact, it has been designed so well that, how do I say this? It does not even seem to be keeping station thrusters kind of a thing, where this ring has been put into such perfect orbit that it will never decay. It will always be the same distance from the planet. It will never fall and sort of collapse in on itself, which is definitely not indicative of a weapon, but it's also something that somebody had to do a lot of science and math on in order to construct a ring to that kind of tolerance.
Captain, I'm beginning to suspect that this is something that is severely malfunctioning, more so than a weapon. It doesn't seem like it can move. More so, it was designed to sit exactly where it is, effectively permanently.
Well, if it's not a weapon, what is it?
It's a good question. Perhaps some sort of orbital storage platform? Or other industrial purpose? James, any ideas?
Is this one of the spots where I could use momentum to ask a question to the DM?
You certainly can.
All right. I'm going to spend one momentum, and I'm going to ask, what other things can Thalaron Radiation be used for other than a weapon?
Other than a weapon, keyword there. So, technically, and this is something that your lovely Vulcan's CMO might have issue with, technically, Thalaron Radiation could be used for sterilization. There we go. Where if you want to be extra sure that your surgical implement has been sterilized, that there are no lingering viruses, biomes, whatever on your surgical instruments, you could basically nuke it with Thalaron radiation and do what we do on Earth with UV radiation. But in terms of it not being a weapon, that's kind of its only real use, where this is a very destructive kind of radiation.
I wonder if it's the byproduct of something else and not the original intention. Although it's emitting such a strong amount, I'm almost hesitant to think that that's not the intended use.
When was the last time the sector was scanned? Because this doesn't seem like something that was put here a couple weeks ago.
That very true.
If the radiation leak has been somewhat recent, it's entirely possible that this is a malfunction and it's whatever its purpose is supposed to do.
You know, that's a great question and easily traceable by radiology understanding. If you are oh so kind, ELH, because they started getting into the questions that I was about to ask, if I would like to do a radiology reading and see what the fair barest minimum of the half-life of some of these radon particles have been, because that should tell me about how long this essentially ring has been up. In fact, I would like to concentrate a couple of the sensors directly on the ring, since it seems to be more than likely made out of, I'm going to guess, titanium?
They have something very unique, but we'll get to that in a moment. So,
Being
Tasani,
made out of metal, it's going to have probably the best chance of getting all of the radiation.
oh, you're gonna love what it's made out of when I tell you. But first, we need to do a roll here, unfortunately. This is, though, going to be another reason medicine. The Trinity will assist you with sensors medicine this time. And this time I am making the difficulty a 3. Now, that does mean you need 3 successes here. That does mean you need to buy dice with momentum unless you really want to hope for a critical success here. And again, I'm doing this for a reason because we need to talk about what happens when you don't have enough momentum to buy dice. So, 1 momentum will get you 3 dice total. That's great. Kind of still have to roll 1 success on all that. You can buy the same things with momentum by giving me the equivalent threat. And threat is my meta currency, and I'll spend it at dramatic moments to make things interesting. But again, this is not a game master versus player mindset. This is just making it so the story is extra spicy and intriguing. But
You know what?
Mhm.
I'd like to buy an extra die with 1 point of threat.
Well, what I would tell you is you have cautious medicine, so you need to buy at least 1 dice with momentum in order to trigger that talent.
Why not grab a momentum dice and a threat dice?
Mm-hmm.
There is that. I could. You know, because that would put me at 4. That gives me a
Mhm.
really good chance.
And also,
And I could
get us
crit
momentum
fish and get
back.
all that momentum back.
Mm-hmm.
So it is 1 momentum to get me up to 3 dice.
Correct, and then it would be 2 additional threat for the 4th dice.
And if you would be oh so kind, Mr. GM, I'd like to buy that 4th die.
Okay, go up to 8 threat then. And yeah, let's see that 40-20. You definitely have a focus here. Trinity always has a focus on the assist.
Yep.
Let's see what happens.
All right, and double checking. This wouldn't have any of my talents with this or other values. Good to know.
All right, that is a total of 5 successes, meaning you get 2 momentum right back. Well done indeed. So, what I will tell you, Tasani, is that this radiation leak, as you are so much surmising at this point, it is very recent. That this is something that has started to happen within the last 2 weeks. You're also noting that the entire construction of the ring is made out of lead. The very same substance we use in real world to dampen the radiation of, well, reactors and things of that nature. So somebody has made a giant lead ring that is, for lack of a better term, nuking the planet below it and is malfunctioning.
Which means there's probably a hole in it. Or it was, well, let's be honest, shoddily constructed. And taking the printout of this and returning to the bridge, I do believe this should answer your questions on the radiation as best I can give you, Captain, along with some extra findings of myself. I do believe, though, the radiation is no more than a couple weeks old, though the ring around it is quite fascinating. It is a lead ring that more than likely is malfunctioning or has been designed to break apart and slowly irradiate the rest of the area.
My only question is, where did they get all that lead?
Very true.
Hmm. You know what? Let's try
Um,
something unorthodox, unless anybody has any ideas.
I have a weird idea. It also might be the same idea you have. My
Go
thought
ahead.
process on the matter was we could basically get all non-essential personnel out of the gamma section, and anyone who needs to stay, we can theoretically inoculate them in some sort, and then we can send the gamma section in for a preliminary investigation. And if it is deemed safe, the rest of the ship can follow and we can reattach.
The beauties of multi-vector assault mode.
But of course.
Very well, Trinity, I'm going to put you in charge of the Gamma section. Dr. Tasani and Lieutenant Commander James, if you all would transfer over to the Gamma section, I'm going to put you all in charge.
Yes, sir. I will need a secondary set of suits. That way I myself will not be irradiated to death, as much as that would be an exciting possibility. I would much rather continue to serve Starfleet in my elongated life.
Well, make sure you take appropriate radiation procedures.
Yes, Captain.
All right.
What I would like to do is have some of the engineering crew build like a radiation locker to store some extra bioneurogenic packs in case we need to replace those while we're over there.
Okay.
To just protect them, because I don't know what it's going to do with that saturation to those.
I was thinking we could get a lead-lined locker chest and throw as much of that in there and take with us pretty much a very standard set. That way we didn't have to worry
Yeah, makes
much.
sense.
Okay. I'll make a note here. In fact, this is actually something that we can use as a teaching moment. So, another use for momentum is spending 2 of it at a time to create what is known as a trait in the scene. Now, traits were present in first edition. They were usually known as advantages, but traits have a very big feature in second edition of Star Trek Adventures, where you all, when you spend this and create the trait, you are adding something to the scene that is beneficial to you or is a malice to anyone opposing you. So, for example, you don't have to do this, but for example, you could spend the 2 momentum you have to create the trait of a radiation locker. And this radiation locker could store a variety of implements. We don't have to get into the nitty-gritty of what is in the locker, but just by having that as a scene trait, it allows you not only to roleplay taking things from the locker, it also will make some roles easier or even possible. But it is your discretion as a group whether you want to spend for that trait.
I say it's
Okay,
useful.
before we do that, I do have a question, because I have the talent walks into replicators.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. Let's put that in chat, actually. All right. So once per session, you may destroy any single piece of equipment to create any other equipment of equal or lower opportunity cost. And it does have a complication range of 2. Okay. So what I would say is it's going to depend on what it is you're cannibalizing to create this jury-rigged equipment.
I feel like there's probably a shuttlecraft in one of the shuttle bays over there that you could probably disassemble for a good amount of materials. It would have to have radiation shielding of some kind, right?
You would think so. The hull would have to have some radiation. I don't know if we have spare. That's probably replicated on the thing.
There's plenty of spare shuttles.
Do we? Do we have like other storage containers that are maybe smaller but do the same thing that I could basically throw in to make a larger one?
Yeah, certainly possible. And what I would say is that using rocks and replicators, that would make it so you actually don't have to spend the 2 momentum. We'll just have a note here that you have a jury-rigged locker, is how I'll put it. But yeah, to sort of give Trinity a bit of a moment here, what does it look like when the Trinity splits apart, and what does that do for your AI interface?
Yes. So when Trinity splits apart, I would imagine that given that this is a full-on ship and not a prototype, there'd probably be some sort of alert designation that I haven't thought up yet, but there's probably some sort of alert that fires off, warning people of the incoming separation. And then once the ship separates, any separated sections are completely isolated in terms of their computer functionalities, which means that the Aria AI is no longer the one flying this specific segment. This segment is piloted by Siloxia, which basically looks like a succubus, and in no way does she follow really any Starfleet protocols in the slightest. She's the one that people kind of are antsy about with being one of the AIs, because she's the one that's been given the deadly weapons, and therefore needs to not have restrictions of not killing people with the deadly ship weapons. So that concerns people at Starfleet.
Oh, no,
Good
not
reason,
just
I think.
Starfleet.
Yeah,
Everyone
it's
should be afraid of
fine.
that.
It's
Yes.
fine.
But yeah, so in terms of body language, Silaxia tends to just casually sit on some holo console somewhere instead of like at least standing at attention like a normal Starfleet officer. She is way too casual for her own good.
All right. So, as the Trinity splits up into 3, the Gamma section is the lower part of the secondary hull. It disengages, sort of swoops low, and then begins an approach to the ring around this planet. And I'm going to let you all decide who's actually in charge, because both we have 2 lieutenant commanders and we, of course, have Trinity. I'm going to let you all decide who's really in charge here, but what I'm going to tell you is that whoever is in charge, you know that ring has actually started to hail you.
I'm sorry. The ring is actually hailing us.
Correct.
Whether or not anybody thinks they're in charge, the Silaxia is definitely going to like pretend she's in charge, even if somebody else is actually in charge.
That's fine. I do have a command of 4 if it does come up, but for the most part, I think I'm going to be watching the biomimetic packs that are actually currently working to make sure that we don't have any malfunctions, because that's the thing I'm most worried about right now, because they're a little bit harder to deal with, unless I can do something with the shields to better shield us from the radiation.
Well, there's always something you can do with the shields. You just got to give me technobabble, or just say, hey, ELH, I want to do this, kind of a thing.
All right. So can I, since how we're not expecting, well, I'm not saying we're not expecting it, but I'd like to maybe shift a little bit of power from the defensive shielding to the radiation shields.
Okay.
Yep, as long as you're not taking anything from my weapons, so you can take it from defenses all you want. Just leave my weapons alone.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Your weapons are fine. I don't touch those.
Yeah, especially you better not touch the graviton beam spinal lance. That one's really important.
Need weapons at this moment. Yes, having them ready is a wonderful action. Now, if either of you would be oh so kind as to stop the hailing frequencies, please use your monocellular brain states and push the answer button so that we at least understand who's there. At least open the hailing frequencies, please.
Fair enough. I'll answer it. Boop.
All right. The channel has been open. We'll get to your shield thing in a moment, James. I've made a note.
Yep.
But appearing on the view screen is essentially a floating metallic soccer ball, or football, I should say, for any Euro folks who might be listening. So it is a white and black ball of metal that is just pulsating as it speaks, and the universal translator translates. It says, "Hello, welcome to WIV Prime. I am the caretaker of this array and of the WIV people." And I put it in chat there if you want spelling.
Thank you.
Are you here in regards to the malfunction?
Yes, we are.
Very good. We anticipated that this ring may have malfunctioned. So we have created a safe zone for you to land and interface with the ring. I am sending directions now. And there's like a ... and then you have directions, a precise approach path that if you fly it as well as you can, you don't have to worry about the radiation.
I can fly that. Sounds like a plan. Although we're not necessarily equipped for literal landing, but we may as well get as close as we can.
If we can at least approach, I can get a further diagnosis on what exactly this full radiation is and how better to counteract the effects, if you do not mind. At the same time, I do believe having a common frequency open back to the ship and our wonderful captain should perform admirably in our Starfleet services.
Very well.
All right. Captain is on the horn. He's listening in at the entire time. I'll make another note.
Mm-hmm.
Let's actually talk about James's shield idea before we have
Mhm.
the Trinity do any flying. So, James, let's see. Why don't we call this a daring engineering?
Daring engineer.
You would have a
Alright.
focus in unconventional thinking.
Okay.
And why don't we do this interestingly at a difficulty of 3 as well?
Can I
Okay.
assist?
So,
You may assist with a structure engineering for the Trinity.
oh,
Lovely.
so I will spend a momentum to get one extra die
Okay.
because I'm going to need one.
Okay.
Is there a way I can assist with medicine and or science?
There is, but he did just get the 3 successes you needed.
Technically, I do have cautious engineering, so I could fish for getting one of our momentum back.
Always possible.
Oh,
Your call if you do
totally.
it.
You totally should.
So,
It totally won't get us a
yeah.
complication.
So if I click on reroll results, is it going to do all of them, or is it just going to? Am I going to have the option to redo the?
It
The
should
one
pop up a
die.
window, allow you to pick how many dice to reroll.
Okay. And I click still using focus because that's
Yeah.
for the critical successes, right? Okay.
Okay, you change
Alright.
that to 4 successes total, getting the momentum you just spent right back. Well done. So, kind of in a narrative sense, there's obviously a bubble of shielding around the ship. It's not usually visible, but now there is kind of this very slight, very transparent red bubble around the gamma section of the Trinity. And it's now, and what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to give you all the trait, special radiation shielding. And I don't know if Whiskey has it set up so that the stream can see it, but for everybody in Foundry, if you look to the top left above where the map buttons are, you should now see special radiation shielding, and that is where any scene traits will be located as I add to them.
Ooh.
But what
Alright.
this matters is if Trinity fails this piloting roll, you're not going to all instantly melt. So, you got that going for you.
I believe in her. It's okay, guys. I can come up with a cure on the fly. I don't want to.
yeah. You're flying the psychopath of the ship. This is the psychopath section of the ship. All right.
It's okay. I'm a
what's our-
hologram. I'll be okay for a little bit longer.
Yeah. All right. So, I'm assuming this would then be an engine's con of some sort.
Yep. Engine's con.
Okay.
It is going to be a difficulty of 4. And to make things spicy, I'm going to spend 2 threat to increase your complication range to an 18 to 20.
Okay, 18 to 20 sounds fun. Okay. And technically ships don't have a determination thing, do we?
No, you actually do in 2nd edition.
Okay.
In second edition, every ship has what is known as reserve power. And the easiest way I can explain it is reserve power is the ship's determination. And you can get reserve power back and essentially continue to use reserve power. It just becomes more and more difficult to regain that reserve power as the scene progresses.
That's fair. All right, so I say I will purchase. Yeah, I'm gonna purchase 2 additional dice to get me up to 4.
Okay,
So
how do you want to do that?
I'll spend the 2 momentum and give you the rest as threat.
Okay, it would be 2 momentum, 1 threat then.
Yep.
All right.
Sounds good. And
Don't
then
think
theoretically, if I don't roll enough, I think I can like re-roll results or something with reserve power? Question mark.
Yes, you could re-roll using reserve power, or if you use reserve power as determination prior to the roll, one of your dice will automatically be set to a 1, therefore granting you 2 free successes to start with.
I think I'll reserve power to engines then and click using determination value.
Okay.
And how do I mark that I've used it? I guess
just click reserve power and it'll change color.
that's fair enough. I meant more for my notes of we've done the thing.
I'll make a note of it.
All right, cool. And boom. 5 successes.
5 successes. Very nice. So you actually get point of momentum back. Well done. So what this is going to look like is the Trinity's Gamma section starts to bob and weave like a drunkard, for lack of a better descriptor, where they are having to jerk violently to the left and then up and then to the right and then down, zigzagging, maybe even doubling back on itself a few times. But the good news is you get all the way up to the ring itself, and you've not once been hit by the massive radiation that the ring is putting out. But as you get up to the ring, part of it opens up to reveal an interior in which you could dock.
Oh, let's dock, shall we?
First things first. Scanners. How irradiated is that bay?
All right, let's do another roll because I want you all to have momentum. If you could give me a reason medicine, the Trinity will assist with a sensors medicine. The difficulty is a 2. Oof. Well,
I'm gonna cautious medicine that. Because...
Well, you can't because you didn't spend momentum. So, unfortunately, that is 0 successes, unfortunately. So, all I can tell you is, Sasani, you don't know. The sensors aren't really getting through the ring's sort of perimeter.
Too much lead. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna blame it on the lead. Found it lead. It is such a... I understand the need for building with lead for radiation, but there are some points that it is just... Oh... Please, find a word for me in this monosyllabic tongue.
Inconvenient.
Yes, we'll go with inconvenient, thank you.
All right.
Well,
so are we docking?
Yeah, I'll set thrusters for docking.
All right. So we see the Gamma section fly into the, for lack of a better term, the massive shuttle bay of the ring. And as the Trinity makes it through, the ring's door begins to close behind you. And it's one of those instances where the light of the star outside vanishes. All you have are the running lights of the Trinity's Gamma section. But then, in classic sort of warehouse fashion, lights begin to flicker on, like foom, 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 foom. And what you're seeing is that the interior of the ring is filled with water. and you are seeing all manner of alien life forms. You're seeing giant fish. You're seeing living coral. You're seeing sea anemones, alien sea anemones. You're seeing basically every single kind of life that may have been on the planet below at one point being contained within this ring.
So they just essentially they life turtled this ring.
Huh.
Okay, but
Fascinating.
why? That seems like an awful lot of effort to go into.
Well, surely there must be some sort of computer interface that with data logs to help us understand the why. My only question is, are there holo emitters in here? Are we gonna have to dig out our mobile emitters?
Probably going to have to go with the mobile emitters.
Oh, that'll
But
be
the good
fun.
news is that the support structure that is in this space between the massive oceans of the interior of the ring, there is a gantry that extends out, and I just sort of imagine you lining it up with the airlock. And presumably, if you go through the airlock, waiting for you on the other side is that same floating metallic ball.
Just before we kind of as we're docking, I turn to Dasani and go, "Have you ever seen a life form like that before?" I can't say that I've seen a living ball
no.
like that.
No.
In my time, I personally have seen many a member through Starfleet and our wonderful, wonderful interactions with all forms of life. Allow me to refresh my memory. What check would it be on this?
Probably an insight medicine difficulty of 1. And you would have xenobiology as a focus.
I was about to say I do have xenobiology. Does it count? And
Mm-hmm.
yay. Let's hope. Let's hope I can at least roll one of these. Well, I could always crit fish. I could always crit fish one of them.
Yeah. Well, the good news is you have 2 successes, so you do get 1 momentum back. So you're at 2.
I'm gonna try and crit fish this.
Well, how are you crit fishing is the question. Because remember, in order for conscious medicine to happen, you have to spend momentum before the roll.
That's why on my other character I go with
trying to look at other things that I have because I'm still learning my own powers.
No, you're good.
Fair. So while you're looking at that, I'm gonna explain the. Sorry, you go ahead.
I'm doing the me thing of reading out loud.
Anyways, while you read, I guess I can explain a little lore of how Trinity is gonna operate with the mobile emitter. So, because frankly, the fact that she is an entire ship OS, like she just is the computer. Even if we had the doctor's fancy high-end mobile emitters, her entire program would not fit on that thing. So effectively, it's just like a dumbed down version of her that exists on the mobile emitter. And then there's just a constant communication uplink between her and the ship's computer. So basically, she has a comm link open at all times just so that she can actually have her proper intelligence and not act like a drunk idiot compared to her normal level of intelligence. That's her workaround.
So basically, what they do in hospitals and some offices where you use thin clients, where instead of having a beefy computer at every desk, you just have a client that's basically a glorified communication console.
That is exactly what she is, yes. If we lose communication with the ship, it's basically like she just grabbed an entire thing of like Andorian whiskey or something and just chugged it.
I have made a note. All right.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Unless there's any other points of order you wanted to handle before getting to this point, you've come through the airlock and there's floating metal ball.
Nope. I thought I took my yes trait of yes. You know every kind of wonderful, wonderful Xeno. so used to 40k, I was about to say Xenoscum.
And you're a Vulcan. Maybe you do think Xenoscum are a thing. Who knows? Vulcans.
Yes,
You know.
Vulcans are Vulcans.
Every-
Humans smell disgusting to Vulcans.
Humans are quite illogical in their reasoning. I don't understand how one was.
Oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you the result of your 2 successes. Yeah, that's an artificial life form. It ain't a real thing. It is legitimately an artificial life form, this ball.
Well,
It's like me.
To keep this as short and quaint as possible for you, Lieutenant Commander James, it is artificial. It is not real. It is much like you. A falsity, a falsehood. Would you like me to continue on?
No,
like to
no, I
breathe
think
when
that's
you get back to
quite
the ship?
fine. Sorry, what was that?
I totally didn't say anything suspicious at all.
You are a very wonderful and odd piece of work. I do enjoy you, though. You are so live as an AI.
Oh, just wait until she gets to shoot her weapons.
I do like my weapons.
But in short form, in a long format, no, this is not an actual life form. It is just an artificial intelligence. As for the rest of the life on this ring, I do believe that is what was previously located on the planet, as there was some catastrophe that should have caused a problem. In fact, I would also love to be informed of what did happen and why they're using this specific radiation to cleanse this planet.
Well,
Seems unusual to be using this radiation, but yes.
all I would say is the answers might be in that floating ball, which is waiting for you at the end of the gantry.
We should probably talk to the orb
Well, then,
instead of
please let me suit up.
big threats at each other.
I'm not making a threat. I'm making a promise.
Again,
Yeah,
if you
saw
have
that
any issues
coming.
with me being artificial, you can have issues breathing.
I did not say I had issues with you being artificial. Now, did I?
I don't know. You're a Vulcan, you might be thinking it.
Now, that would be highly illogical. If you would allow me to suit up, I can grab your mobile hollow emitters and we can be on our way with it.
But of course. Let's suit up and go say hello to the orb.
All right. So, as you walk through the gantry to where the orb is located, the orb sort of bobs up and down a little bit in the air and says, in again, sort of a standard sort of greeting, says, "Hello and welcome to the life support ring of Wiv Prime. I am, of course, again, the caretaker of the array, and I am here to answer any questions you may have regarding the operation of this ring, so much as it facilitates the repair or the eventual deactivation of the ring."
Right. See, I know I have questions that I would ask because you're a D&D player for 20 years. You have a specific set of questions that a character may or may not ask.
The orb is not a Tarsk in disguise. The orb is not a lich phylactery. The orb is not a bag of holding. The orb is not flammable. And the orb is also probably an intelligence of about 14. Did I get all of them?
Detect evil, detect good, detect magic, detect law, detect chaos, detect devils, detect demons, detect fae.
Dungeon Master, what does the orb taste like?
It tastes like copper.
That way.
So after they introduce themselves, I go, greetings, I'm Lieutenant Commander James. This is Lieutenant Commander Tasani, and this is the AI of our ship, the U.S.S. Trinity, Siloxia.
Greetings.
Very good. It is nice to make all of your acquaintance. We are not familiar with any of your species or your artificial design. However, this may be useful in repairing the array.
Yes, we detected a large amount of Thalaron radiation coming here, and we came to investigate. And came
Yes.
across your ring, your array. Sorry.
This is quite all right. Both terms apply. Perhaps I should reveal the purpose of this life support ring. And at this, the orb actually slowly rotates into two halves, and it opens up to reveal what is essentially a holographic screen.
Ooh.
And what you see is a representation of the planet as it once was. And just looking at this holographic representation, this was an ocean world where the entire surface was pure blue, just bliss kind of a thing, where this was very much something where all the life that's being contained behind those massive force fields and bulkheads used to be on this planet. But the orb explains. Sometime approximately 2 centuries ago, we began to notice, the Wiv people began to notice a plague affecting not only themselves, but every single living organism on our world. Our best scientists, our best doctors did what we could to combat this plague, but eventually it was decided that there was no way of purging the plague from our world, that if we did not leave our planet behind, that we would die upon it. That led to the creation of this array, where every healthy Wiv and every healthy member of the species you see to either side of us, every single healthy member, along with filtered water that we were able to put in the array, was taken off-world before we began bombarding the planet with Thalaron radiation. Our hope was that this radiation would completely sterilize the planet. That way, when we were completely sure the plague was handled, we could reseed the planet with an ocean and with life.
Okay, that answers two of the questions I had, especially the radiation use.
Mm-hmm. The logical plan.
And it is logically speaking that makes a lot of sense. What exactly is your directive as the AI on this ring?
I am to ensure that the Thalaron radiation is contained and is directed completely at the planet. We do not wish to harm any other spacefaring entities that may exist. However, I am also capable of determining when the planet's surface has been completely sterilized. Before the radiation leak and malfunction, we were at 98% completion.
And how long ago was this project started?
Approximately 300 cycles ago.
Hmm.
And you could do some quick math, about 300 years ago.
Fascinating. What's the estimated time to completion? Or is that an issue that is not able to be deduced with the current ring failure?
With the current malfunction, we are unable to activate a complete sensor scan of the planet's surface.
Well, that does give us a course of action of what we should probably fix.
Yes, it
Mhm.
would. At the same time, do you happen to have a list of every organic that is on this station? Let's call it.
I do, yes. I would be happy to furnish that information. And then there's a pause as the game master goes to his threat button and hits it 6 times. To say,
Oh,
the entire array shudders, and warning lights and sirens begin to go off. And the floating orb caretaker says, "Oh dear, it seems that the primary fusion reactors powering the Thalaron radiation emitters have entered into a supercritical state. We need to fix this, and soon." And because this is an excellent time to pause our game. That's going to be our session 1.
It's like,
All right, I'm gonna write down the questions that I'm gonna ask after we deal with that.
Yes. You go, well, gotta stop the ring from detonating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So yeah, what'd you all
was like,
think?
oh, it was wonderful. As soon as I was like, okay, I have 3 things I want answered almost immediately. Its purpose and its directive.
Mm-hmm.
Purpose
Mhm.
instantly answered. Radiation use. Oh no, you answered that almost immediately, and it was like, okay. The next thing I get, what life forms are on?
What life forms are? Burn, soon to be 0.
Yeah, potentially a lot less soon.
Potentially 0.
Yeah.
Fix.
Oh, I see Caspian in chat dumps all the threatened dips. Yeah, that's me. That's basically what I do with all my games. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna spend threat, and that's where we're gonna cliffhanger today's session. So
Yeah,
Oh,
just
yeah,
be
it was
careful
great.
when
It
you
was
get to the
hysterical.
13 threat and the cliffhanger becomes Borg Cube.
yeah, fun fact: board cube 13 threat. It just shows up. I don't know how or why. It just shows up.
Look, that's where I use contingency plan number 2, okay? Because that's the only place that I'll do it without being court-martialed.
Yeah,
Just remember, Fireball is Plan B.
That's not prepared. Okay.
In 8 hours, Fireball is Plan B.
But I could switch them in a turn.
In 6 seconds, Fireball is Plan B. At this point, nuking the warp core is Plan B.
Yeah. Yeah.
If only your ship was
Yeah.
fast enough to outrun the Borg. That's, you know what? That's fair assessment. But counterpoint, Caspian, the warp nacelles on this ship are so much prettier.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's all I got for tonight. I mean, Whiskey, it's your stream. Where do we go from here?
Well, let's see. Let me see if I can find any adorable gremlins to raid.
I really enjoyed it. I love learning new systems. I love Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a giant Star Trek nerd.
Hey, look, somebody playing Monster Hunter Wilds.
The best part is, for a lot of Whiskey's older viewers, they know how in depth I can get with a lot of things, and I didn't want to do that tonight because it was, let's move this along.
Let's let plot happen.
Let's let plot happen without technobabble.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to start technobabbling you, ELH, and I'm very sorry you were about to get the full program.
Sorry? No, I love Technobabble.
Technobabble's the best. Why do you think I play a Snake Chief Engineer? So I could shout Technobabble.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's why I was like, well, I can use the tachyonic radiation core to just pretty much pinpoint how old this is, and then as soon as you said lead, I went, fuck, that just killed like 90% of my reading.
Yep.
Oh. No,
Alright, let's queue up the
I don't
raid.
like that. Well, goodbye,
Well,
chat.
Yes.
Goodbye, chat.
Fun.
Goodbye, chat.
Also, ELH, I'll get you the VOD video thing so you can upload it on your channel.
Cheers.
We are up Shit Creek. We
This also gives me a week to figure out. My brain's already going on like different ways to deal with a warp core or a reactor meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we have to, let's hope the reactor's not on the other side of the ring.
No, that's another 6 threat spend.
Well, hey, next week I might be able to use a couple of my things I probably shouldn't.
It'll be fine.
Oh,
it's
like
fine.
Well, yeah, it's not like I have an entire talent around. No, I can do this. I have no idea how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it along with. Screw it. We have the information. Let's improvise it. And
Yes.
Technically, I would be following Starfleet protocol.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I would go with is if it was on the other side, that's where I'm going to start using my transporter chief where, I just transport us over and I can reduce the threat that we get.
And raid time.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Boop.